Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a few of the subscription items from Brutus Monroe. This is their April stamp of the month and their April embossing powder. Now I'm not actually using the stamp of the month on today's card, but I am using this gorgeous green embossing powder. I'm doing some really simple cards in sort of a color block style, and I want to show you an example of one that I've already done just by masking off sections of some paper and doing embossing powders and inks to kind of create a color block card. And I'm going to be doing another one today on camera so that you can see how simple this is and how you can do this with some of your embossing powders and your inks to kind of change it up and make it any look that you want. So like I mentioned, you want to section off different pieces of your cardstock with washi tape. And I'm just kind of using the grid lines on my craft mat to make this tape straight. And I'm kind of in my mind thinking of what colors I want to use together and how I want to section this off for a fun color block background. So I'm going to do this bottom section in the Sour Apple embossing powder. So I'm just taking my embossing ink and smushing it right down onto this section, and I want to make sure I cover the whole area with ink so that I get a nice smooth embossed color and I cover that whole section. So I'm even rubbing my little ink pad up against the washi tape to really get a nice crisp edge. So you want to take your time, make sure you really cover this with ink. And if you find that you missed a spot and it didn't completely emboss, you can always go back and emboss another layer on the top. But if you go ahead and you put enough ink on there, you really should only need to do one layer like I did here. So then keep your washi tape on. After you've got the ink applied, go ahead and sprinkle on the embossing powder and just tap off any of the excess to put back into your jar. And then once you have it covered, go ahead and heat it up with your heat tool. So I use a Wagner heat gun, and I feel like this is the best brand that I have tried personally. I think it just heats up really well and it really melts that embossing powder fast, which helps cut down on some warping. Now I did have some warping on this card, but I used nice strong adhesive to adhere it down to a card front, so that helped keep it straight a little bit. So you can see I have my green apple or sour apple embossing powder all melted, and it's really pretty. It's got sort of a subtle sheen to it, like a shine, so that's really fun as well. Now once your embossing powder is melted, let it cool down for a second or two, and then you can go ahead and peel off those pieces of washi tape. And I'm just using that same piece of washi tape. I'm moving it down a little bit to just cover the embossed area. And now I can color that top block or square rectangle with some surface ink, and I'm using some gargoyle surface ink here today. This is sort of a darkish gray, and I thought it went really well with that green. It really helped that green pop. Now the strip of color, or the strip on the side, I'm actually going to leave that white, and that's where I'm going to put my sentiment. But if you wanted to add another color in here, you could. If you wanted to block off more sections and do different designs with this color blocking technique, you absolutely could. I found it helpful to go to Pinterest or just Google color block art or color block designs, and it brought up a whole bunch of different things, different color schemes, different designs. And if you're looking for inspiration, I think that's a really great way to go. So I did speed up this ink blending portion, but I just wanted to make sure I had a really nice layer of ink on these blocks. And you can see now that I have the color blocking kind of done, and I'm slowly peeling off the washi tape. You get a really nice crisp line and a straight line if you line it up with your grid mat, and I think it just really looks nice. It's a really simple way to make sort of a simple card, and you could even make this, change it up different colors to make it masculine or feminine. I think this would be a great guy card as well. It's just simple and bright, and you can make several of these in no time at all. It's that easy. So just go ahead and peel off your washi tape, and now I am going to cut out my sentiment using some Brutus Monroe alphabet dies. These are the uppercase dies, and I'm just going to cut out the word hey with H-E-Y, and I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6 to cut these out. Really simple, just running it through your die cutting machine. One pass is fine. And then you can go ahead and layer it on your card. Now you might see that I have a heart laying there. I played around with the idea of using that on my card, but I decided just to go with the simple sentiment, just keep it really simple, and I love the way it turned out. So here's those little letters. You can see how thin they are, and they cut out really great, and I love these letters, adding custom sentiments to any of my cards. I actually cut these letters out twice so that I could stack them up and glue them together to get a little bit more dimension. So that's what I'm doing here now. I'm using my Brutus Monroe craft glue, just adding a tiny dab on these little die cuts, and I'm going to stack them up, and then I'm going to glue them down to my card to create the sentiment, hey. So I think that's really fun, really just a sweet, short little card that you can send to anyone, really. And so just making sure I'm lining up my little letters there, pushing them together so that glue will hold. Now, another thing that I decided to do was I cut a tiny strip of black cardstock, and I'm just using it to line those sections where the color meets. I think it kind of just helped things pop out a little bit more, and it really helped coordinate with the black cardstock that I used for this sentiment. So you could also do this with glitter stock. You could use, string, different things to kind of change this up for your own little card, your own little design. So really super simple card, like I've said before, and it's just really fun to play with. I went with squares and rectangles kind of shapes for this card. The first one that I showed you was more of a triangle card. So there's a ton of things you can do. If you look up color blocking, there's a lot of really unique designs. You could even put a pattern in some of these blocks and really just customize it to whoever you're sending it for. So I'm just gluing down these little strips, and I'm cutting off the edges that are kind of hanging off the side. And now I'm going to glue down my sentiment, just putting a little bit more of that craft glue on my die cut letters here to create that sentiment. Now you could just leave this as is and call it a day. I decided to add a little heart behind my hey, my little sentiment there. I thought it would just be a cute little addition, but if you had a guy in mind and you thought maybe they didn't like the heart, you could just leave it off. But I thought it looked nice, so I went ahead and added it. Again, I love this craft glue from Brutus Monroe. It dries quickly, but not too quickly. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room to get all of your embellishments down before it totally dries. And then once it is dry, it holds very well. Now to adhere this card front down to my card base, I'm using some Brutus Monroe foam tape, and this is a pretty thick tape. It's a little bit thicker than the other tapes that I've had, the foam adhesives, which I find it works really great if you're popping up a card front or if you're using a shaker card. I think that's a great thickness for that, and it holds really strong. So even though I had a little bit of warping on my card with that embossing, it's holding it down really well, and I've got a great card here. So that is the card. It's super simple, like I said, but I think it's really fun and a little unexpected way to use your embossing powders. So on my first card here with the pink and the gold, those pink and gold are actually embossing powders. So I've used my April Sour Apple and I've used my March Coral embossing powders to create two different cards. So thanks for stopping by today. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, hit the bell, and do all the things. And I will catch you guys next time. Have a great day. Bye.